it is spooky season. Now, I know it's only September 1st, but I need to tell you guys that I take this very seriously. So, you know, for me, spooky season actually starts last week of August. Like, I start warming up for it. But officially, from the 1st of September, I'm like, right, Halloween, all the way back, all the way through to Christmas. I don't give a fuck about Christmas. Like, it's all about Halloween for me. I love Halloween. I love witchy shit. I love scary season. I absolutely love everything about the decor. It was already out in the shops from like the 20th of August or something like that. So it was already out. So this video is going to be, I don't even know if I put a title on it, but I will do later on, about how to scare people all year round. Because I tell you what, something about being child free is that you're always scary. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, how much money you earn, what language you speak, what your nationality is. You will literally, you're going to scare them. Hey, how you doing, Michael? You good? Right. So I haven't put the title up because it didn't give me an option, and I can't even remember if I do that because it's been such a long time since I've been on here like live, because I just wanted summer to pass and just, you know, not that there's much of a summer over here. We've had like really shit weather. I haven't even been able to like wear a lot of nice summer outfits, and that's a bummer. But tell me what you guys have been up to. I want to know all about your summer, how it went, and also what your plans are for spooky season. This is going to be all about, wait, I've written it down in my little notebook, watch out for these scare tactics. I'm very well, thank you. I hope you're doing well. Let me know how your summer's been, and what you have planned for spooky season, if that's your... Hey, Thomas, you okay? If that's your thing. Like, it might not be your thing, and that's cool. And sorry about the hair. Like, it's so freaking humid here still. We haven't really had hot weather, but we've had humid weather. So, yeah, mind your business. I know you guys aren't going to be like that, but I was going to straighten it. And then I was like, I'm not getting the straighteners out because it's too warm. It is still too warm. But if you looked outside, the weather, it looks so miserable. And it's just, as always, it's always gloomy. Oh, but yesterday was nice. I'm not going to complain. Yesterday was actually really nice. I even got to sunbathe in the garden for a little bit as well. So I can't complain. Got to go on the sunbed. I'm trying to keep this tan going. Got my nails done. I've had a really good day of self-care. Met up with a friend. We had a really good lunch or brunch. And yeah, just chatted as you do with your friends as well. Hi, Liam. You okay, guys? So this is all about how to scare people. No, watch out for these scare tactics, because this is all they are at the end. So some people might rewatch this. Like, if you're rewatching it as well, that's absolutely fine. Or if you're on the live, welcome. Is that sometimes what people do is when people are bingoing you, I'm sure you've seen all the videos before and all the posts about child-free bingo and the questions you get asked and the kind of who's going to look after you when you're old. You know, you're going to never know true love and all of this, etc., etc. You guys are like fully trained in this now. You probably know all about what you're going to hear. But I find that a lot of the time it's just scare tactics. So I'm all about scare season and, you know, Halloween. I absolutely love it. But I always feel like I can't kick my house out because the kids come knocking. But also I've noticed the last 2 years, the kids come knocking either way. So I'm just going to decorate the house now because the kids knock on the door anyway. So I'm just going to, this time I'm going to try and be nice and I'm just going to have some sweets out or something like that. I'm just going to be like, right, take your fucking sweets. Just don't knock on my door. Just take whatever sweets you want. I'd rather you than me. So these are the scare tactics you need to look out for because people are going to try these on you. And I'm probably talking more for like the younger generations. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to older people as well, but more so for the younger generations. You're probably going to hear this more so than if you're like late 30s, early 40s. People start to wind down a little bit as well. So let's have a look into this. You know, when they say, probably more for females because we have a ticking clock, is that they say to you, your clock is ticking. And they say it to you to scare you, like to make you worry, to make you panic, to make you go, oh my God, let's hurry up. Let's get this done. And this is how people always end up in relationships. Like, even if they did want kids, this is how they end up in like relationships where they're unable to like maintain them, or they're with the wrong person, or I don't know, it just doesn't last. So fuck these scare tactics. Stop listening to them. This is like not gonna get you anywhere. Like even if it's something you're on the fence about, even if you're like discussing it with someone or someone close to you and you're not 100% sure yet, just don't listen to, oh, your clock is ticking. Because I've literally have, not joking with you, I literally have friends who have become mothers at 40 but have become grandmothers at 40 as well. So this can swing both ways. Like technology is making it, and medicine is making it a lot more feasible for women to actually delay motherhood should they want to. So even if they're delaying parenthood, they still want kids, they just don't want them like right now. So they might want them like 40 plus. They're aware of the risks, but you know, this is something, you know, that they still want it down the line. It's possible. So stop telling people that their clock is ticking because we have technology now. I mean, whether you believe in that or not is a different story, but it's available for people should they want to go ahead with it. So, you know, why don't you just let somebody get on with their life? I've learned to, I never used to be like that, but I've learned to just let, you know, I have to just let people get on with their stuff. That's what I've learned to do that. You know what I'm saying? I find it hard because people can't do it to you. So people always, they can't just keep their mouth shut around you in terms of like asking you personal questions, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Let's have a look. There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot of connection. There's more so online now, but there are loads in person in terms of child-free communities as well. So there is a lot online. It's becoming more like people are making more of a deal. There's like child-free holidays. I've got a lot of connections that have joined my group on Facebook who they do like child-free cruises, and they're like travel agents, and they specialize in like child-free holidays and stuff like that. So they obviously cater to our lot who want to go somewhere and stay in like an adult only hotel, or they want to go like on a adult only cruise and stuff like that, etc. So that's one. Your clock is ticking. Oh my God. Or the next one is like you'll end up lonely, alone, sad, old, all of these things, which actually to an extent we're all gonna get old, and it doesn't matter how many kids you were to have, like you can still end up lonely, and there's no guarantee. I think we've been over this as well. I think any person who can stop and actually think properly would know, like anyone can end up lonely or alone. And I've said lonely and alone because they're not the same thing, and people don't feel the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't necessarily feel, if they're alone, they don't always feel lonely. A lot of people want to be left alone. They want to be alone. They want to be by themselves. I actually heard, I thought this story was a joke, and I actually still think it is. There was this guy who was like stranded on a desert island, and they found him, and he was like, oh, like pissed off that they found him because he wanted to be left alone. I don't know if the story's true. I didn't read into it because I was rushing, but I was a bit like, really? I would fucking go mad. But you know, all this, like you'll end up a single cat lady. I think I've been over this in one of my videos before, is that you'll end up a single cat lady. All of that's been going on recently in the media. If you haven't seen it already, you know, this whole, you know, are single cat ladies actually lonely? I mean, you know, there's people who are in big families and lonely. We don't know how people are feeling because people don't always show how they're feeling. People hide how they're feeling, understandably. Not everybody is open with how they're feeling. But what does loneliness even look like? I think we just assume it's a person sitting by themselves, sad, crying, you know, crying into a tub of ice cream, sitting with their cat, their dog, whatever. Like this is the stereotype we're fed in like movies and books and stories and stuff like this. But actually, what is loneliness? Because you can feel isolation and loneliness. Like loads of independent people as well. I've met loads of independent people who they're like hyper independent and they love their independence, and that's fair enough, like to each their own and whatever. But then they still feel that little bit of like isolation and loneliness for whichever reason. But also there's people who have a really big social circle and loads of friends and still feel like, oh, do you know what? No one really gets me. I feel like lonely. I don't feel like I can turn to anyone. Because some people just have connections, but they're not deeply connected, if that makes any sense. You know? So ending up alone, lonely, single, that can happen to anyone. That this is pot luck. I mean, the only thing that's guaranteed is death and taxes, right? I mean, literally, that is, there's a famous saying, there's a reason it's famous, because That's the only thing that's literally guaranteed. Nothing else is guaranteed. Happiness isn't guaranteed. Money isn't guaranteed. You know, you can have as many partners as you want, but some people are still trying to fill a void. That's what I've found as well. And it depends, you know. We don't with the child-free answer by scarring them back. The clock is ticking. What on earth? It's becoming more damaged day by day. What kind of home will those children inherit? Actually worry for the kids. Do you know what? Thank you for nailing this literally on the head. You know, like when I see AI and stuff like that, and how far AI has actually gone. Now, I've had my head buried in the sand a little bit about this, because I've been seeing, it's not just on Facebook, like AI images. I mean like AI as in, I've heard that apparently AI is used to like choose people's CVs for jobs. Like, so it's not even a person like sifting through them and reading them. It's literally a computer picking out certain words that you might have on your CV, and you might not get chosen because you might not have a certain word that's written on your CV. And I was literally like, are you actually fucking kidding me? So I was buried my head in the sand a bit about that. But AI is actually going, you know, like Black Mirror, we're going down that route. Like, we watch this and think like, oh my God, this is creepy. And it's like, yeah, it's creepy, but it's actually like happening. And it makes me think I would always be so scared in case my child grew up and couldn't find a job, because, you know, computers do everything now. And there's so many jobs that are being lost because computers have like self-service checkout. You know, we've got airports now. Like, you can fucking check your in for a flight. Like, it's stuff like they have self-training soon, because that's true. There's nobody training by themselves. There's no training person on there. No training driver, no person, because you scan the ticket. There's literally, I was shocked when you go to the airport, you can check a bag in. And I'm literally like, you can actually check a bag in. Because I thought the whole point of checking the bag in is someone asking you what's in the fucking bag. Like, that's what got me. I was literally like, why is no one gonna ask me like what I have in my bag? Like, it's just messed up. So that's what scares me. And like you said, I actually worry for the kids, because what kind of world are they going to inherit? Are they just going to be taken over by AI and robots? This is getting a bit deep, and we're only 12 minutes in. But this is another one I find. This is a scare tactic I find that people give to you when they kind of run out of everything. Like, everything else, I don't understand. Sometimes it's says, and I don't believe that everybody says it to be horrible, but I think that some people say this because they don't know what else to say to you afterwards. That is that they say no one wants you anyway, and specifically they say it to like, because they say, oh, no man's want you anyway, or providing that you even assume the person is in the men. You know, it's kind of like, oh, no man's gonna have you like that. No one wants you anyway. You're ugly. You're this. You're that. Let me tell you, I've said this before. Anytime that someone's using your physical appearance against you, they've lost. That's it. You've won. You've won. You don't need to do anything else. They've lost because they have absolutely nothing else to bring back to the table. They have nothing else. So what they do is they think, right, I'm going to have to go down the route of finding something on this person that I can pick at, be that their physical appearance, their hair, their clothes, anything, absolutely anything about the person. And it's just so typical and so old and so 90s. It's just so gone now. It's like, move on. Like, if you're going to try and cuss, can we like move away from the like, you're fat, you're ugly, you've got crooked teeth, you've got spots, you've got like fuzzy hair, or no one wants to fuck you. All of this stuff, like, it just gets really, really boring. And for some people, that's really hurtful. And while it doesn't really bother me, because I find it, I just laugh at it, because I know I've won when somebody does that to me. And people even say it on my videos now. Like, some people I get comments, and they say, like, they even say to me, no man is ever going to have you, even though they know I'm married to a man. Like, they know I'm married to a man who I've been with for over a decade, may I add. Almost a decade. It's going to be a decade next year. And they still say to me, no man, you can't keep a man. And I'm like, well, first of all, you're assuming I'm actually married to a man. Second of all, because I can be married to a woman. Second of all, I've actually been married for like 6.5 years. But anyway, again, not saying that this makes someone better or worse, by the way, but people, it's like they've got nothing else. Like they've exhausted all options. So they think like the only option, the only way I can knock this person down is to try and get to their physical appearance, or say like, oh, you're not remotely attractive. Like, okay, fuck off then. Why are you here? Bye. See you later. You know, this is what I'm saying. That's what I said at the beginning of the video. This is like, you are scary all year round. We don't need scare season, guys. We're scary because we don't follow the status quo, and that's not just to rebel, that's because we don't want it. It's genuinely because we just don't want it. Like, people always think, and I was thinking about this like when I was coming back from town earlier on, I was like, why do people always say to you, oh, it's a phase? Have you noticed this? Has anyone ever said this to you when you were younger, when you either said something about, you know, like what you want to do when you're older, how you don't want kids, you might have, you know, expressed something about your sexuality, and somebody was like, oh, it's just a phase, you'll grow out of it. And I'm just like, why do people say this? I mean, people say it to grown people as well, like, oh, it's just a phase. Like, people always said to me, by me not wanting kids, it's a phase. And maybe for some people it is. Maybe they don't want kids now, but they want them later. Or maybe they don't want kids in their 20s, but they want them in their 30s. And that's fine. If it's a phase for you, more joy for you, whatever you want. But I always find it really funny when people say that, because it's almost like, no, I know what I want. Like, some people genuinely do know what they want, and they know from a young age, and that's fair enough. But I think we should just all listen, like, let people just make their own fucking decisions. It's just, I don't know, it's just boring. Like, I just want to, you know, all of this childless cat lady stuff that's been in the news at the moment. Again, it's just like, we're not offended by it. Like, it's old news. We're giving you a chance to refresh your vocabulary and come back at us with something else. Because, like, having cats is a vibe. Like, this is a vibe. Like, I've said it in a video before. It's called The Invisible Man. The video of, like, all the 4B movement and whatever, whether it's a thing or not. A lot of people say to me it's not a thing. But, you know, in that video, I said, like, this doesn't hold the same weight that it did back in the 90s. I mean, I'm sure even then there were some people who were like, fuck off, I love my cats, you know. And they never say childless dog lady. Like, what about all the dog people out here? You know, I'm not a dog person, I'm a cat person. But what about all the crazy dog ladies? And, you know, don't use crazy like it's bad. That's fucking funny. You know, my aunt calls me crazy. I find it hella funny. So I've said that one. No one wants you anyway, or no man will want you, which is a load of fucking shit. You know those childless cat ladies, they tend to like vote. I know, right? I know, being a child-free cat lady sounds like an ideal life. I know. And I actually know a lot of personal child-free cat ladies, and I'm not just saying this, and they're not just saying this, they like live, I've got a few that live around the world, and they genuinely like single by choice, and they have cats. And I'm telling you, I look at their lives and I'm like, fucking hell, like this lady's smashing it. Like, I look at them because they're like an inspiration for me, and they're not doing it for brownie points. They're not doing it to rebel. They're just doing it because, you know, they just love their life, and that's fair enough. And, you know, some people are more open to relationships when they, you know, when they might find the right person, if they find the right person. But some people are just like, oh, do you know what? I can't be bothered. Like, I do know that someone here says no one is single by choice. Some people genuinely are. I've heard a lot of people, and when I say single by choice, is like they don't have any urges to be with someone, is what I mean. They might not have any sexual urges, or they might not want companionship, or like I said earlier, they might just want to fucking be left alone. And if that's the case, then fine. I think we need to stop pushing this narrative of like, you need to be with someone, or it's the only way you can be happy. Because I know loads of people who have been single their whole life, and I don't know, they seem happy to me. And whether they say it or not, they seem happy to me. Like, they're successful, they've got good careers or businesses. Like this person, she runs her own business, she's very successful. You know, that's how I see it anyway. And whether she's lying or not, I don't know. But it seems to me quite genuine. That's just my assumption, I guess. As a man who doesn't want kids and likes cats, child-free cat lady sounds awesome. Thank you, Darren, for sharing. And thank you. I really appreciate the men here sharing, like, and being able to share without kind of getting triggered by childless cat ladies or child-free people. I just find that really, I want to say I appreciate you guys, because there seems to be like less of you as well. Like, obviously I know a lot of my audience are women, but it's nice to to hear from men's perspective as well. So thanks for sharing. I think there was something about the next, who's going to look after the next generation. I don't know. I keep seeing stuff like on the side. What will you do when you become older? Like for me, older, I don't know what that means for you, but older as in I might have different hobbies by then. I might have different views and opinions. I know I'm never going to change my mind about kids, but I knew that from the age of 12. But also, I don't know, I might not be here. I just try and take each day as it comes, because I spent a lot of time being depressed and anxious because all I kept doing was thinking about a time that hasn't come yet. I kept thinking about, oh, what about when I'm 30, or what about when I'm 40 and I haven't got a house yet, or I haven't done this yet or that yet, or earned this amount yet. And it just, I was like, wow, I'm not living now. Like, live now. Stop worrying. Like, yes, to an extent, think about your future, your retirement, your trust fund, or whatever it is that you want to set up for yourself, you know, your pension, whatever it is, whatever your plans are. Yes, have that plan there, but I don't let it rule my life anymore. I'm not going to sit here and worry about, like, oh my God, what about when I get to 50, and what about this? Yeah, I have those days where I worry about it, but I'm not going to let it run my life, because why? Just live your life now. Other people are still having kids, dude. Just because some people aren't, it doesn't mean everyone is stopping them from having kids. True. Do you know what? People always say, like, oh, you know, the birth rate's declining, like the population's declining, all of this, like we're going to go extinct. Fucking hell, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Like, for real. I don't even think it's probably going to happen, because even if the birth rate declines, it's not going to stop. Like, people aren't going to stop. There's always going to be a percentage of people who have kids, and who, even if it's just one, there's still going to be a percentage, which is always probably going to be more than the child-free people, because I read something about the percentages in America, and the child-free percentage was rising from like 43 to 45 to 47. Even if it was 50%, there's still 50% having kids. Like, even if we get to 50% at child-free around the world, there's still another 50% having them. So what are you worried about? You know, there's still people here, you know. So, oh my God, the next one, the next scare tactic is, you're going to disappoint or upset XYZ person. And people always say this about your parents. You're going to disappoint your mum. You're going to disappoint your dad. You're going to disappoint your partner or whatever. But it is usually like you're going to disappoint your mum or your dad or something like that. And again, it's kind of like, I've got a video coming up about this. I haven't filmed it yet. But there's this video of like, we have to be this version of our parents' selves. And that's just not on. Like, come on now. You are your own person. You're an individual. Whoever you are watching this, whether you're raised by biological parents, adopted parents, carers, guardians, grandparents, you're still your own entity. You're still your own person. You have your own personality, your own likes, wants, dislikes, dreams, goals, aspirations. You know, there's no such thing as like, oh, you know, you're going to disappoint such and such person. You're not doing it. Even if you did, you're not doing it intentionally. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm going to go out of my way to hurt someone today. Like, I'm going to not have kids because I really want to piss my parents off. Like, really? Like, I don't really think those child-free people out there who I've spoken to anyway and I've connected with are not having kids just because they want to piss their parents off. I mean, I don't know, maybe for 5 minutes it might piss them off, but come on now, it's a decision for ourselves. So ultimately, it's for yourself, right? If you want to be happy and you want to live your life on your standard and you don't want kids, then, you know, it's got nothing to do with anyone else. Like, it's not about disappointing someone. I'm not doing it to upset someone. I'm not doing it to get under someone's skin. And this is another scare tactic, and women fall for it. I'm going to say women specifically because they're more likely to fall for these scare tactics, because women are guilt tripped more and they fall into it. So when they're guilt tripped, they actually fall for it and they go, oh, I'm really guilty now. I better go and do XYZ. I better go and have kids. I better do this because I'm hurting this person. Like, I'm upsetting them. I'm upsetting my mum. I'm upsetting my nan. I'm upsetting my dad, or whatever it is. Like, you're not upsetting anyone. And I think if parents guilt trip their kids into having kids, that's even worse. Like, that is horrible. To make it, how can you make your kid feel shit? Like, surely if you had kids and they're your own flesh and blood, obviously I don't have any, so I don't know what it feels like, but surely the last thing I want is to like upset them or hurt them. So why would I guilt trip them into doing something? I just find it a bit mean. I don't know exactly, you can adopt kids. Someone else has mentioned that. I heard a story about adoption this week from someone. Oh my God. It was about someone who adopted two kids, and they got on with one kid really well. And I think when I say adopted them, they obviously got them when they were very like babies. So obviously the bonding was instant. So she didn't get the kids when they were like 11. That's different. But she got them when they were like babies. And apparently she's really bonded with one, but not the other. And the other one acts like really I can't even describe it. Like it sounds like they've got behavioral issues. Whether that's created by their bond or not, or whether they were born with that, I don't know. I didn't ask the details, but this person was like, oh my God, she was even thinking about giving them back and all of this. And I was like, can you even do that? Because she was like, I don't know. And I said, like, where did you hear this story? Like, who is this person? You know, can you actually give adopted children back? Like, what if you adopt a child and then like 2 years later they start, I don't know, not liking you? I don't know. I don't know how it works. I thought it was quite a stringent process. So I can't imagine you can give them back, but then also I can't imagine why you would keep them. But I don't know. It's just, I found it wild that, because I've heard of people obviously regretting having their own kids, but this is different. Like, this person's actually like not even had biological kids. They've actually gone and adopted them and then regretted it. And I was like, I've not heard that story before. I wonder if there's more stories like that. There probably are, but because it's adoption, they possibly feel worse about admitting it, because they were like, oh, you know, this person was obviously given up by their parents, etc. I just want to see if my battery is okay. I can't even see my battery. Oh. Sorry, I'm just catching up, guys, because when these come up, I just lose them, and I'm really sorry if I miss anything. But yeah, so when people say you'll disappoint such and such person, I'm not disappointing anyone. The only time I disappoint someone is if I promise them something and then I don't deliver. That's the only time you should be disappointed. It's like if I say to you, right, I really promise next time you come over, I'm gonna make you this meal, I'm gonna have this, or I'm gonna be at this place at that time, and then I don't follow through. That's when you should be disappointed, because someone's given you a promise that they haven't kept. I'm disappointed by people who make promises they can't keep, not by people who live their own life or make a decision for themselves. I'm not disappointed by someone who's chosen to have kids. It's not my business. It's like not my life. Like, I don't care. Like, I used to get irate about it, but I can't be bothered anymore, because I want to just live my life and be happy. So next one, scare tactics. If you've just joined, we're talking about scare tactics because it is Halloween season. I start Halloween from like now. I don't think it should start from October. I think it should just start from now. I haven't had a pumpkin spice latte yet, because honestly, I haven't seen it offered anywhere. So we'll come on to that in a moment. They're probably too sweet anyway. You'll never know true love. Like, I think when you talk about love to people, they might get worried. And I call this a scare tactic. I call this a scare tactic because it is scaring someone. You're making someone worried about not finding love. Now, if you talk to some people about, you know, when they really want a partner, they really want to get married, they really want to settle down. If you ask them why, it's probably because they want like companionship, they want to find their best friend, they want to find their soulmate, whatever. But ultimately, they want to know what love feels like. You know, the saying, like, I want to know what love is, as the saying goes. And people use this scare tactic the same with children. So they use children as a weapon, or babies as a weapon of like, you're never going to know what love is until you have a child, because, you know, apparently everyone loves babies, which is obviously, as we know, 1,000,000,000% bullshit. And this again is why so many people end up with kids. And I've heard so many people say this online, both anonymously and openly, is that they say, oh, when I first had my kid, I didn't get this rush of love that everyone talks about. I didn't get these maternal instincts. And they're always like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I didn't get this love that everyone spoke about. So if you've heard this scare tactic from someone, just understand that love comes in many forms. It's not just black and white. It's not just, you know, a partnership or through a child or anything like that. I don't really understand people who say this. I just find it quite, it's not even funny. I just find it dumb. Like when somebody says you'll never know what true love is, I just find it, I just find it quite an entitled comment to make to someone as well, because how do you know what other people find love? Like how do you know, or how can you guess how other people interpret and feel love? That's like me going up to a random person who I don't know from Adam. I don't know what their preferences are in life. I don't know what their dreams and aspirations are, and being like, oh, you're never going to know true love until you marry someone. No. Loads of people have been in love and they're not married. Loads of people are in love and not married. That's just absolute bullshit. Like, love it's not always in human form. You can love your animals. You know, you can love your pets. You can love your friends, you know, because they're your best friends. Not necessarily romantic, but you can love them like they're your friends. Let's have a look. You'll never know true love until you have a baby. Okay, so true love is a relationship in which you have all the power and the other person has none. Oh yeah, sorry, that's the one I missed. I'd rather disappoint someone rather than having a kid I'm not 100% into having and taking care of. Exactly, because then you when you're trying to please someone else, like if you're worried about disappointing your parents and you have a child because you worried about them being disappointed, you might then in turn disappoint your child, because you might then end up being like not a half-assed parent or not a good parent for whichever reason. And then your kid will end up growing up, being an adult and being like, oh, fucking hell, like parents did a shit job of me. You know, if that's how they think, you know, because they're adults, they're going to form their own opinions. You know, every time I hear someone say you'll never know true love until you have a baby, I'm just like, damn, I feel sorry for your spouse. Exactly. Like, do you not love your spouse? Do you not love your other half? You know, and sometimes you've made a very valid point there, because I always hear this when people say, when they've had the second child or the third child, they're like, oh, we're now complete. Like, the family's now complete. And I'm like, what? So you're saying like the first child wasn't good enough? Or your second child wasn't good enough? Or actually, sorry, your partner wasn't good enough as well. So you had these three things and then you had the fourth thing and oh, suddenly everything's better. And it's like, what, didn't you not appreciate your other kids? I just find it a bit like, oh, we're complete now. Some people do it with their first child as well. They're like, our family's complete. And I'm like, were you not complete before? Like, were you half? Like, were you in half? I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe it makes sense in their head. So apologies. This isn't meant to like offend anyone, but maybe it makes sense in their head. But I've never made sense of that. If you can only find true love in the sense of a child, like, surely you love your partner and your cats and your dogs. Come on now. Not all parents love their kids unconditionally. I've recently read something about that. It wasn't very good. About a mother who actually said, like, I don't feel anything to my children. And she was being honest as well. And I felt so sorry for her. She was like, obviously it's just a typical story. It makes me so angry of like, you know, dad's not on the scene, but dad really wanted her to go ahead with the pregnancy. He was the one like, yeah, have the kids, and then fucked off, of course. What else? Because men like the aesthetics and men can run away, but women can't. So, and she was like, if when my kids touch me, I cringe. Like when they kiss me, I hate it. And I was like, oh my God, I've not heard that. Wow. There's a lot of abuse and neglect cases by parents. Exactly. It's just, it's really sad, but I read something somewhere once, and this was ages ago. I was actually going to do a video on this, but then I lost the article and I was like, shit. I was like, I can't reference it now, but maybe I'll find it again. Who knows? Anyway, it was this article about how it was like into genetics. Now I love talking about genetics. Like, I find it fascinating, but also terrifying, because I call having children, like, I call it genetic roulette, because you don't know what you're getting, right? But I read this article about how we're meant to reproduce, because even if you reproduce and, you know, you come from trauma or neglect or whatever, and you reproduce and then you pass that down, it's because your genetics have like won, and like they're stronger because they've like fought through all the hardships and they've come out better. And I was literally reading it in like aghast. I was literally like, what do you fucking mean? Do you mean we should keep reproducing trauma and keep reenacting it and just keep passing it generation to generation to generation? You know, it's just, I was dumbfounded, but I was literally like, I lost that article and I was like, for fuck's sake, I was trying to search for it. I was like, where was it again? Because when I research stuff, I get like into a deep hole about it. and then I'll end up with all these windows open, and then yeah, I just lost it. So maybe I'll find it again. But it was apparently, you know, like when people say to us, oh, your bloodline is going to end with you, and you're like, yeah, that's like the aim. It's just like people are like, no, your bloodline is meant to continue because, you know, it's survived, you know, it's like survival of the fittest type of thing. But obviously I don't believe that's an example of survival of the fittest, but that's how the article was explaining it, is like, it's a survival of your genetics. Like, yay. And I'm like, what if somebody doesn't like their genetics or doesn't agree with their genetics? Maybe someone in the comments, like, if you've just gone over what I've described, you might be able to explain it a bit better than me. If you can, feel free. My bloodline or genes aren't really anything special. I feel like that about me as well. Like, I just don't feel like, some people have said to me before, you know, like, oh my God, you know, I'm sure women, you've probably heard this before, but men, maybe you've heard this as well. It's like, oh my God, but your kids would be so good looking. Like, that's a reason to bring a child into the world. Like, oh yeah, let me just see what they look like. Oh, you didn't come out looking like what I thought you would. Now fuck off. You know, that's literally like some people. Let's have a look. Right, I've got you. Did I say you'll never know true love? I did, didn't I? And then I got talking about genetics, because I could, like, guys, we're 36 minutes in. I could talk about genetics all night and just like, what you're gonna get. Is it potluck? And I remember having this conversation years ago of like, I always knew I wasn't going to have kids, but somebody was like, oh, but you know, you never know what they're going to look like. And, you know, what if they're really talented, or they cure cancer and they go to space and, I don't know, set up the house on moon or whatever. I just almost knocked my charger out. You know, what if they do all of this amazing stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, this sounds great, but it could go the other way. That's the risk. Like I said, that's why I call it genetic roulette. Because when you go and play roulette in a casino, it can go one way or the other. You can win a lot of money, or you can fucking lose a lot of money. You know exactly what I'm saying. You know, if you have a kid, it can go one way or the other. And that is not what I want to pass down. I'm not going to pass down my generational trauma. Yeah, my genes aren't special either. I was always worried about generational trauma because my ancestors grew up, and I think a lot of people's did. If you look down in your lineage, you've probably had this as well. They grew up during like war and poverty and, you know, people fighting over religion and stuff like this. Like, that's embedded in us. That's what I think. I don't know. That's what I think. Like, I think it's embedded in your DNA to a degree. I don't have any scientific evidence of that. That's just my belief, by the way. I'm not saying it's fact. I just think it's embedded in you deep down, because you, for example, like, you can be of a certain, I think it's the same with cultural differences as well. You can be of a certain cultural background and grow up in a different country, but it can still, you're not going to change, if that makes sense. I don't know if I probably can't describe this as well as I want to, so I'm not going to go there, because I might end up, you know, saying something different. When I find a way to articulate it properly, I'll say it. Generational trauma is patriarchal culture that I've lived with. Yeah, exactly. Like, same with my cultural background as well. It's very patriarchal. It's very like misogynistic. It's very like, let's just, like, women should be seen and not heard. Like, women should just be invisible until we need them. And I'm like, nope, not having any of that. Not having a daughter into that kind of world. No, thank you. Final one. Oh, wait, hold on. No, it is. So all of this is basically, it's like designed to keep you in doubt. It's designed to keep you like low esteem, low self-esteem, self-doubt, guilt tripping, gaslighting, all of this stuff. I've mentioned it like millions of times before. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I'll die on a hill saying it. This is, you know, this is just to keep us small. That's it. It's just to keep us small. It's to keep us worrying. It's to keep us anxious. Don't live in this state. Like, life is too short. It's not worth living in this state. And that's why when I said earlier on in the video, where someone made a comment about what are you going to do when you're older, is I don't know if I'm going to even be here. I don't know, because I used to always worry about that kind of stuff. I used to just spend day in, day out of my 20s, by the way, like your prime time, your prime years, worrying about like, oh my God, what if I get to 50 and I don't know, this happens, or I'm in a care home, or I lose my house, or I lose my job. And it's like, you just don't know what's going to happen. Like, didn't know all of that shit before COVID was going to happen. No one did. Like, I was actually just starting out in a new career, and then fucking COVID went and fucked that all up for me. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Just been training for a whole year. And then COVID comes along and like, we got different plans for you, honey. As it did for everybody. You know, it affected everybody differently. But, you know, that's just a prime example of you can work for something and you just don't know you don't know how it's going to pan out, you know. With all this World War III talk, you might be on something. Well, let me talk about wars. Right, very quick. Yeah, I'm glad the child-free community is growing as well. About the war, right? So one of my friends said to me the other day, because we had an incident that happened in the UK. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but there was an incident in the UK where there was an attack on children. So 3 children got stabbed in they were like in a dance class or something. And this caused an uproar in the community, obviously. I mean, yeah, it created an uproar because fucking hell, bro's going around killing kids. Like, what the fuck? This world isn't even safe. Like, I can't even imagine how those parents are feeling. You know, those parents who just dropped their kid off at a dance class and now their kid's not here anymore. I don't even know how they're going to get on with their lives. I don't know how you move on from that. I don't know how these people sleep knowing that, you know, you drop your kid off somewhere and you're like, wow, my kid's not even fucking safe. You know, it's just... Anyway, so that created an uproar and there were like a lot of riots and stuff like that. And one of my friends, she was like, I think there's going to be a civil war. And it's just scary to think this is, again, somebody made a comment earlier on that, you know, the tensions are rising so much, we're unable to live with each other. You know, the world isn't, I don't like to say this in a negative way, but the world is a scary place sometimes, a lot of the time, you know, because, you know, these parents can't drop their kids off anywhere without fucking worrying about, oh, is my kid going to come home? And it's not just even when they're adults, because obviously when your kids are adults, I'm guessing people still worry about their kids. I know my parents still worry about me. I have no fucking idea why. But the worry doesn't go is what I'm saying. So I'd hate to live with that kind of worry. But going on to that war, you know, the kind of, you know, all the conflict going on, it's just constant. Like, one finishes, then another one starts, and then that finishes, and you're like, right, can we hear some good news? Then another one starts, and then another incident happens which sparks off another one. It's just non-fucking stop. I wouldn't want to let my child leave the house, but at the same time, obviously you can't wrap them in cotton wool. So yeah, that is that's it, guys. I'm gonna get off my TEDx stage now. Oh god, I need a drink, like an actual drink. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not. But that was all. And if you have seen my last short and my last post on the community tab, then you'll see that something is coming, because I left a little cue as to what is coming. There is something that's gonna be released, and I'm so excited. So excited. Right, so I had to reorder that thing and just move a few things around. But yeah, I've reordered it. I'm gonna get the brand new one as of next week some point. And then we're going to think about that release date probably. I'm so glad it's coincided with like scare season, because I just think it's the perfect timing. Like, it couldn't have been any more perfect. And for that, I am super, super grateful. But also another thing I'm grateful for is you guys. Thanks so much again for joining me. Thanks for sharing your ideas and your thoughts and, you know, beliefs and whatever. And if you're joining on a replay, thanks for watching on a replay as well. I know I am a witch. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. That look, which colours? It's great. Happy Halloween, cat lady. You guys too. And well, I was gonna say something else and I can't remember. And I know as soon as I close this off, I'm gonna remember it and I'm gonna be like, that's it. That is literally it. For those of you who want the extra content on those topics that I know YouTube are not gonna be happy with me putting out, they're a little bit more taboo. Don't really want to put them out there into the big wide world because, well, they're probably going to get censored or taken down. You can look into joining my membership, Unhinged. I just think it's literally like named so appropriately as well. If you click the join button on any of my videos on my channel, you can see everything that's accessible for you guys. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye, guys. How do I stop this?